Hey there YouTube, I'm Yukitsu, this is Yukitsu Times, welcome to my channel, welcome to a little bit of Battlefleet Gothic. So the Tau just got added in beta. I haven't played this game all that much lately, so a little bit rusty and a little bit out of things, but I think that this is an interesting looking faction and I'm hoping that this pushes the game a little bit in the right direction, but we'll see how that sort of goes. I've been thinking that a lot of the changes that they've been making to the meta are actually detrimental to the way that I would prefer seeing the game go, which is more, direct ship-to-ship fighting, maneuver, and stuff like that. As it currently is, it's mostly about line of sight blocking, so I just don't particularly think that's that interesting because of the asymmetry of the maps, as well as the fact that they've made the stealthiest factions also the fastest factions with the longest range, which makes no sense to me. If you're going to do a situation where you've got that asymmetry, typically you want the stealth faction to be one that's really, really fast but very, very short range. Eldar could have been that, but they gave them a decent range on most of their things, and they've made it very, very weak at this point in time, so they've been over nerfed because of their mechanics. The other one being Chaos, they're both fast, they've got long range, basically they can fire backwards, so I mean there's really no reason to ever engage when you're playing as Chaos, and it's very, very hard to play against that. They should have sort of done things a bit differently in some respects. But in any event, though, the Tau, I think, are an interesting faction that steps a little bit in the right direction of how you should develop an ordinance-based faction as opposed to what they have done. Space Marines being another example of a bad ordinance-based faction. The Tau basically are an ordinance faction that has really big guns that is slow. So there's good and bad things about this, and we'll get to that later. So first of all, let's take a look at the escort ships so I don't forget about them. The Warden is an important ship for the Tau because they get them for free when they take certain other ships there. It's the only way that they can take them. It's a low quality, low cost type of escort unit, but they can get them, air quotes, free. So 37-point unit in theory, so they've got the Prow Railgun, it deals pretty decent damage, and they've got the Ion Cannon turret, which is not great damage, but it's a Lance-type weapon. So these guys can sort of slowly chip away at enemy ships and deal some pretty decent damage from pretty long range. They're not exactly the best, most inspired unit out there, but they're not very expensive, and you can get them with other ships. Castellan is the next type of ship here. Now you'll notice that their torpedoes here, if we can highlight them, we can't for some reason. Their torpedoes deal 30 damage each instead of 90. These torpedoes are actually homing though, so they will home in on enemy ships and deal some pretty decent damage in that way. Twin railgun light turrets here. Pretty mediocre gun, but they've got quite a few of them, and they fire 2 shots each, so it's basically 6 damage per second, reload of 8 seconds. 6/8 or 3/4 damage per second for 3 of them. That ends up being like 2.25 damage per second from the whole lot of these. It's not great, it's less than the Warden, but they have got those torpedoes which really, really add to that. Next up is the Nakasar. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. They've got a pretty decent twin railgun battery here. Number of attacks 2, damage 12, reload time 8 seconds. So each of these guns has like a damage per second of 1.5, of actually 3, sorry. The total value for the ship is 6, which is insane for a light escort type vehicle. They've also got 200 hull integrity, 200 shield, which is also kind of crazy for an escort type vessel. So these guys can really put out the hurt for that. The only way you can take these though is by taking the upgrades on the other ships. They cost 47 points theoretically, so Messenger is the other type of frigate. These guys just have a whole bunch of this really, really crap light railgun turret. The total damage per second for this whole ship is 1, so these guys are just really, really pathetic. They've got 100 hull integrity, 100 shield. You would never want to take this instead of taking more Wardens, but the problem is that Wardens are restricted by the ship types that you bring. So for light cruisers, what you've got here is the Emissary Barkan. These guys have got the homing torpedoes here. The gravitic launcher is what they call them. Torpedoes launch 3, damage 30, reload time 30 seconds. So these things, not exactly the most damage out there, but since they're homing, you can sort of spam them out there and deal some good damage that way. They've got the Gravitic Hook Warden escort ship, provides a free Warden escort ship to the fleet, so this provides 2 free escorts. Now, it's free in air quotes because you're ultimately paying for them. This is a ship that's pretty much equivalent statistics-wise to the Sasia. The Sasia costs 102 points, this guy costs 175 points. 2 of these guys costs 74 points. So you can imagine taking the Barkan, reducing it by 74 points, it's 101 points. You're saving 1 point. Otherwise, these are pretty much identical. Like, the weapon loadouts look slightly different, but the damage per second out of these guys is pretty damn similar. So, this ship's last weapon armament there is the twin heavy railgun battery. They have 2 attacks each, so they've got a damage per second of 1 per gun, and they've got 8 of these guns there. So, This is pretty similar to typical guns on this light cruiser ship. The Dauntless is one of the few ships that really outdamages it, but it does have the ability to fire all of its guns out front. So if you're dealing front damage, this guy's capable of putting out that sort of hurt more so than something like Dauntless. But if you're firing side to side, then this ship is missing out on a lot of damage by contrast to those types of ships that can fire from both broadsides. So it's kind of like more concentrated fire, but less spread out fire. The next variant is the Dalith. It's a little bit more expensive than the Borkan, but this is basically just the carrier variant. It's otherwise exactly the same. The carriers for these guys, however, are quite strong. The bomber squadrons deal 90 damage per bomb, and they fire 2 bombs each. So the thing is, each squadron only fires like 1 bomber, and that bomber deals 180 damage. So this thing, like with 2 bays, deals 360. It's pretty insane. You can deal a ton of damage using ordnance as the Tau because of that. The last variety is the Emissary Sasia. It's got the gravitic launchers here, the twin heavy railgun batteries, so same as the other ones, but it replaces some of those with ion cannon batteries, and those have a damage per second of 1, same as these guys, but they're a lance type weapon, a little bit shorter range, same sort of angle of fire. So the way that I view these guys, you would want to start off with the Emissary Sasias and not really pay any upgrades for them, because you're going to be replacing them with the Daliths later, in my opinion. The Dalith is a very, very strong ship. It's got a lot of competencies, and it does a really great job. The only thing is you can practically get 2 Sesias for 1 Dalith, and you can't even take 2 Daliths in a 300-point game. So you would want to stick to using 2 Sesias and then an escort if you could, rather than the alternative for those low points values games. Next up, we've got the cruiser slots here. They've got the Protector Tolku, and they've got the Protector Viorla. So these guys do not have the Warden Gravitic hooks, and because of this, they're much, much cheaper. 167 points there. We got 600 hull integrity. So as an aside, these all have 400 hull integrity, so they're a little bit weaker than normal, as per like Space Marines and Eldar. It's becoming a little bit too common. I think they're overusing that. But anyway, the Protector Tolku does have a very, very decent armament here. It's got the gravitic launchers. It fires 5 torpedoes, which is quite a few. It's got those ordnance launch bays. It's got 2 of them. It's got the heavy railgun batteries. This is not the double one, so it's got a damage per second of half, which is pretty bad, honestly. But they've also got the ion cannon batteries, damage per second of 1. And then they've got the Prow twin heavy railgun cannons. So they fire 2 shots there at damage of rate of 12, reload time of 8 seconds, so it's damage of 3 per and then 6 total for both of them. So this is a pretty high damage weapon. The only difference for the Viorla is that they've got the Prow heavy railgun instead. It's got a damage per second total of 4, so it's a lot less damage out of these things. I'm not entirely sure necessarily why you would take one variant or this variant over this one. The Tolku just seems a lot stronger to me. Just in terms of that one weapon switch there. Heavy ion cannon battery is the same as the other one. Railgun heavy battery is the same, so on and so forth. Like, I think that this one theoretically has slightly higher chances of critical chance percent to 4% there, whereas this one's 3%. But this one fires 2 attacks, so you actually get more chances to crit. Maybe this has 12,000 range. No? Okay, I really have no idea why you would take the Prow Heavy Railgun, honestly. Just feels like it's a much weaker weapon compared to the Prow Twin Heavy Railguns. I'm assuming that might get fixed later or something like that. It's also a tiny bit cheaper, like 1 point, so I don't really think that that's worth it. Auxiliary ships are where things get a little bit weird. So the Demiurge Stronghold, 1,000 hit points for hull integrity, 400 shields, really slow speed there. Got your typical sort of values there. It fires off regular torpedoes, not the homing type. It fires these 6 torpedoes with 45 damage, so standard damage now. It has 3 ordnance launch bays, which is quite good. It fires normal fighters and bombers and assault boats, though, as the Empire's less damage than the Manta bombers. It's got 6 lance batteries, which are really, really strong. You've got 6 damage, or 1 damage per second out of these guys at 12,000 range, so that's quite good. They've got the macro batteries here that fire to the broadsides. Pretty decent there. They've got the Prow Cutting Beam, which is a special weapon. It works a little bit like the Eldar forward lance. Just fires in a straight line. It deals good damage. They've got the macro battery that fires to the front there. So they've basically got sort of like macro battery coverage on all sides. It deals pretty good damage on all sides there, and it's a pretty tough ship as well. The only problem is that it cannot get any crew and doesn't count as the normal ship for the purpose of upgrades. So cruisers and stuff like that for the Tau have unique upgrades. These guys don't have those unique Tau upgrades. Demiurge Bastion is basically the cruiser variant of the Demiurge Stronghold. The Demiurge Stronghold is essentially a battleship class ship. It's a little bit weaker than some battleships out there, but it's pretty similar and comparable in statistics and armament. Demiurge Bastion, however, is much more cruiser-like. It's got 800 hit points, 200 shields. It's got only 4 torpedoes, and it's got 2 ordnance launch bays instead of 3, macro batteries to the sides, macro batteries to the front, proud cutting laser, and your same sort of lance battery. So it's just a smaller version of the Demiurge Stronghold. This also does have less skills. You get 4 skills in the Demiurge Stronghold and 2 on the Demiurge Bastion. Crew Warsphere is another unique ship for them. It's very, very durable, again, at 1,000 hit points there, 200 shields. Its speed is very, very low, and it has a rotation rate of 0.0 per second. So this thing only maneuvers by thrusting in a direction, and then once it's in that direction, it keeps going in the direction until it gets to where it's going. Very, very awkward to maneuver. Not exactly my favorite ship. Fairly short range, very melee-oriented. I'm not entirely sure how to use the ship properly. The missile pads, theoretically, though, do give it decent damage per second, and it's really cheap. 108 points for a Crew Warsphere is really, really cheap. So I guess if you kept them all moving together towards an objective and just rolled them over, say, like I don't even know when, honestly. Just roll them over an objective and you could use them for that purpose. That might be an interesting or good way to use them. For the battleship, they've got the Custodian, which is their toughest ship as far as an actual Tau ship. It's got 1,000 hull integrity, which is pretty good. It's got 300 shields, speed of 150, rotation sort of normal. Troop values all normal, blah, blah, blah. Armor at the front is 75 for all the Tau ships. I'll get over that in a little bit there. It fires 8 torpedoes from its gravitic launcher, which is quite good, and they are the homing torpedoes there. It's got 3 gravitic hooks for the Warden escort ships, so it can fire off quite a few of those. It's got 6 ordnance launch bays, so it's very, very high damage as a carrier. It does have just 12 of the railgun heavy battery, 1 attack, half damage per second, and then the twin heavy railgun battery. So you can think of it basically as having 24 of these things, and that would be not too far off of how that is. 12 damage per second in total from the batteries, and then it's got the ion cannon over here. 1 damage per second as a lance sort of thing. It's almost like a token sort of thing there. So the upgrades that are unique for these guys here, they've got the adaptive deflector. It gives them the front shield of the ship, 75% armor, which is really, really strong. It basically lasts until you take a front critical, which will happen, but it's still a great, great bonus for keeping your ship alive if you want to go gun to gun with these ships, because your batteries are all to the front. So you would go front of your ship to the side of the enemy ship, and your ships would be taking a lot less damage if you took the adaptive deflectors. The other way that you could sort of play this is the stealth game. You've got stealth alloy. This means that your ship does not form a red blip at the start of the game, and you can sort of fly your ship around, and it won't be revealed until someone flies within range of it. The other thing here, crew contingent, add 1 boarding action to the ship. Not too useful in my opinion for the particulars of these guys, but you can play them very, very short range. Next up for unique upgrades, they've got marker lights here. Defensive turret range is raised to 3,000 from 1,500, makes it much, much easier to intercept enemy ordnance. And intercepting ordnance is actually something that the Tau are quite good at. Their turret values are quite good, and they can get some interesting benefits out of them. So acquisition systems is one of their unique ones. You'll notice that they don't have anything that really increases damage, but acquisition systems is when you're on lock on target, you get 3,000 range. They've got the interesting one here, Seeker Missile, deals 1 HP damage per second per defensive turret to enemy ships in the defensive turret's range. So this damage ramps down quickly as you take damage, but if you're alongside an enemy ship, you can deal damage to them very, very quickly with the Seeker Missile, and you can extend the range out to that with the marker lights. Energy Shield, Tau Ordnance can sustain an additional damage before destruction, so that just means that your stuff is less likely to get disabled there. XV-46 Vanguard Void Battlesuit. When the Manta Bomber performs an attack against an enemy ship, it also deals a boarding action. I quite like this in some respects, but actually it's kind of weak because you only have 1 Manta Bomber per bomber wing. If it was more than that, it would be really, really good. The Niksar Dao replaces the Warden with the Niksar Dao, which is a really fantastic upgrade. If you've got 3 of these, you're basically increasing the amount of points by like 30. And lastly, they've just got the Beam Concentrator, your typical sort of thing. So those are their unique ones. The other ones are all pretty standard. This does give them a lot of flexibility in how you'd want to play them. Either you can play them up close, focusing on the Seeker Missile and durability focused, or you can go gun to gun with the adaptive deflectors and upgrade their gun range and stuff like that, and just pummel away at the enemy ships from really, really long range. Or you could go for a very stealth build with emission dissipators, the stealth alloy, and stuff like that, and just play around your opponent. For unique skills, they've got, instead of the stasis bomb, they've got the gravity wave projector. Pushes back enemy ships in a 45-degree cone angle around it. So this basically just keeps enemy ships away from you. I don't like it as much as the stasis bomb, which I feel is a lot stronger. For support, they've got the repair drones there that has a radius of 3,000. It heals the ship and anyone near it. 1 hull point per second, which is not great, but it is an interesting and novel way to heal up your ships. You can just keep them around your center there and keep your ships all healed up a little bit. And that's all they've got for unique skills. Crew is your typical sort of crew thing there. For favors, you've got the Firecast. These guys are your melee warrior types. For them, they give you a +5 bonus to the troop value of the ship, but you also gain more troop value every time you board an enemy ship by 3. So this can rack up pretty quickly, potentially, but you would have to be doing constant boarding actions, which is quite dangerous. Fire Warrior Breacher team, whenever you do a boarding action, the enemy suffers a fire on board critical hit. So they basically just automatically cause an additional critical. Watercast here, you get a Niksar Dao every 180 seconds, which can be a very, very strong bonus. It's a really strong ship, so I think that can be a lot stronger than getting the Shadow for the Empire there. Diplomat here, when fitted on an auxiliary ship, so if I were to get, for example, say the Demiurge Stronghold and then go into favors here, you'll notice that I can only take Watercast. This gives it ignores the Mercenary trait, and if we look at what the Mercenary trait is, the ship will automatically disengage without the possibility of executing its captain when it reaches 30% of its hull points. So if we take this here, then we can still execute the captain as per normal. When it's on a Tau ship, though, it grants 1 free crew point to every crew member of the ship. So we would look in our crew of, say, this thing, we would automatically get 1 point in each of these guys, which can be pretty good for Tau ships. They've got some pretty hefty crew requirements because a lot of them are very ordnance focused, but they've also got really good guns, but you're also really susceptible to boarding actions and so on and so forth, so that could be a good one there. Earthcast over here gives you an extra gun here. It basically just fires a fast railgun shot. It's basically a little bit like the mining laser or the Eldar pulsars, so it just deals huge damage in a straight line. I'm not 100% sure how effective this is. I haven't really used it much, so I'd have to test it more before I could really tell you how good it is. What I like about this is that it does give you that extra upgrade slot, and I find that the Tau are very upgrade hungry because they've got very, very effective upgrades. Lastly, they've got the Aircast. This is one that I think people are going to take. When you hit evasive maneuvers, when you're on all ahead full or high energy turn, you decrease the enemy accuracy by 40, which is a huge amount of accuracy reduction for the enemy ships. Of course, this means that Tau are vulnerable to lance ships, but since they've got so much ordnance that they're pretty much going to be fine against ordnance heavy fleets. So it's really just long-range lance ships that would be able to deal with an Aircast fleet. Next up, they've got the improved ZFR Horizon Accelerator. It raises the ship's speed by 50, raises the rotation speed of the ship by 5% per second, 5 degrees per second. I think this is what's going to make this one popular because it lets you actually play these guys as a kiting faction. Now, these guys are slow. Their base speed for all their ships is 150. If we look down here, we can see that these are also speed 150. So what you're going to typically find from these guys is that you're going to be in trouble a lot of the time when you're trying to move away from things, and you can't really kite effectively because of that unless you've disabled a lot of engines. But since you don't have assault boats by default, you're going to have a harder time disabling engines than other people normally would. I think that this means that these guys do end up having to fight, and they're a little bit good at that actually. They're actually pretty okay in close quarter combat, but they are fragile, so if they don't do enough damage on the approach, If they don't position well, they're going to get absolutely trashed. If the enemy can focus fire their ships down, they're going to get absolutely trashed. But their burst damage from their carriers and from all of that other ordnance, as well as the fact that their guns are quite good at long range and at close range, means that they're going to be able to potentially deal enough damage that when the enemy does get in close, they're going to be in tatters anyway. But the enemy inevitably will get close. The reason I don't necessarily like the aircast, and the reason why I also think that's going to be popular, is that you can actually play a stealth aircast and not have to engage the enemy in close quarters combat, which I don't think is particularly conducive to a good time. So I think that's going to be what people end up taking a lot. We'll try and not do that in particular with our playthroughs here. So that was ranked mode. You do start off with a full fleet when you're in ranked mode, which is a nice sort of feature to that style of thing. You obviously don't want to give unbalanced games where one person has a full fleet and the other guy doesn't, but let's go ahead and go persistent mode here. Let's go with... there we go. And start off with how I think that we want to do a starter fleet here. Now, one of the things that's going to be a little bit weird is I might not even get a starting skill for my starting ships here. Because what we're going to do is we're going to start off with Sasia, and we're actually going to start off with like 3 of these things. The reason being that the Sasia is the cheapest one points-wise. We cannot actually afford to take more than one of the other ones. But I actually like the other ones better once we get later into the game and get some more veterancy. So replacing is free. We can get rid of the ship here and we can take a Daleth later on once we've got more experience, and that doesn't cost us anything. The only thing is that we have to get rid of all of our skills, basically, which we don't get full points back for. So, you know, it's kind of, in that sort of sense, going to give me a disadvantage right now, but it's kind of neither here nor there. I think that skills are a little bit overrated at this level of game anyway. Like light cruisers, their one skill is not going to do a ton because you don't have a lot of options in this game when you're at this level. But yeah, let's get into a match here. So we've got 204 points worth of stuff there, which unfortunately means we can't take a Castellan. They're 55 points each, but we can take like a messenger, I guess, just as a scout. Get a vision of the enemy and then start pumping out those torpedoes. The alternative is, I guess we could pop a skill here. Just let's just get one actually, because we'll be stuck with this ship for quite a while, I think. So we pop that skill. We have the ability to attach that to an enemy and then start firing torpedoes at it. So the advantage here is that we should be able to, if we also end up against someone really high rank compared to us, we can just take 3 of those things. But we'll see what we're up against here. Alright, so we're up against someone who's a little bit ahead of us, but not like enough for us to take the good stuff there. We could take 2 messengers, though. The question is, do I want to take 2 messengers or 1 Castellan? Because I think the 1 Castellan could potentially be better. No, I'm going to take the 2 messengers. The reason that I'm taking the 2 messengers is... Actually, no. Crap. This is a really tough choice, actually. Because like the Castellan has as much firepower as 2 messengers by itself. It also has as much hull points. It just doesn't have as much collective shields. It's also slower. Oops. Alright, well, whatever. I like the looks of these things, actually. They're quite sleek looking. Alrighty. So we get to select 1 Tau trait thing here. We're going to go with Kayun, which is basically we get a bunch of extra damage if our ships are not visible to the enemy, and we're firing at them. So, actually no, we'll take the warrior one. The reason is that I just realized we don't have any real way to get vision of these guys. Alright, let's go ahead and tag those on. Take that on. Alright, so my opponent has 3 ships as well. That might just mean that he's got the 1 ship, or he could have 2 cruisers like me. 2 light cruisers.
To spread the greater good.
But we'll see what he's got.
Cor-El ready.
So what we're probably going to do is just like try and get like right in close with him. Actually, let's turn this off for the time being. What we're going to try and do is just like, if he's heading for the gas cloud, not accidentally activate all of our torpedoes. Okay, yeah, so he has got a cruiser there. And it's weird that he's only got the 1 cruiser and then these guys. I wonder if he's actually got a full cruiser and not a light cruiser, because that's possible. Either that or he just wanted the extra battle points, because you can get more points by taking a light cruiser and just having spare points left over.
At your orders, Koro.
Alright.
Aircast ready for orders.
I don't think he's heading close enough to that gas cloud that he could escape if I got vision of him and I fired my torpedoes, so I think I will have these set to fire at least some of them. Now the problem is if I get vision and he gets stealth, he could potentially slip away there, but I don't think he'll be able to because he'll be within my sight radius. That is a trick you can do, though, if you want to be a douche, is just immediately hit boost for a short period of time and then hit stealth. And it will cause people to like waste a whole bunch of ordnance. Especially people like me that always have their ordnance on auto fire. You know, it's not necessarily a good idea. I'm going to turn off automatic boarding.
Have identified an enemy target.
Alright. So here you can see the homing element to these torpedoes there.
How may I serve the Tauva?
Slips around those torpedoes there. I think he might friendly fire himself with those torpedoes a little bit.
Correct, ready.
I'm going to try and actually get to their cruiser here.
Last door sealed. Honor the teachings of Yola.
Now those torpedoes are all going to hit basically.
To spread
Yeah,
the
he's got a
greater
full-on cruiser there.
good. Aircast ready for orders. At your orders, Koro. How may I serve the Tauva? We serve the Kovadra.
Ouch. Okay, we want to get close enough that he can't fire torpedoes at us. And angle such that we can still fire torpedoes at him, but
Aircast ready for orders.
I think that his ship is simply put too tough for us. Yeah, he's activated his drones there as well. Let's try and fire at his weapons.
At your orders, Koro. Targeting sensors, lock on.
Can't turn
Honor
here.
the teachings of Yola.
Alright, my ship is going to go down here.
Gravity drive to maximum. Time for a tactical retreat. Restore command wing.
Alright, we got a mutiny debuff on our ship here.
Repair drones activated. Tauva shall prosper. Gravity drive engaged.
Alright. Got a repair started. Alright, he's got a mutiny on board. I think our torpedoes in this launch will actually knock this ship out. Yep.
It will be so. Crisis teams boarding enemy ship. By my set.
Ugh, this is tough. Alright, what kind of ships are these anyway? It's a messenger. Okay.
To spread the greater good.
I don't think I'll have any trouble beating a messenger up. This is also a messenger, I think? Yeah. Okay, 2 messengers is no problem. Alright, so we did lose one of our Sasias, but it's not that bad. Alright, and this torpedo launch is probably going to eventually find its way to that ship. One of the problems is, like, they've got a minimum arming distance, so they don't turn fast enough, necessarily. Oh crap, I need to get out of the way. I'm going to hit my own ship.
Target acquired. Gravity drive engaged.
It's like an absolute spam of beams out of the Tau ships. I actually like the look of it. This is one of the better looking sort of attack animations, I think. Along with Chaos, I think has a really good attack animation sequence. Alright, these torpedoes, yeah, they're gonna not even be necessary. Okay. So yeah, this was pretty good for us. I could have focused down the escorts first, but their damage per second was like 1 each, so it really didn't matter that much. Would have been nice if I'd had the front shield bonus, but or anything really to stop my ships from exploding so quickly, but they're quite fragile, and his ships are just better at that sort of bruiser fight. Still, we managed to win that one. Yeah, I think this is definitely how you want to start off with the Tau, and then just replace those ships later as you go along. Once you hit level 2, you'll be able to get a full-size cruiser, but even then you'll be playing 300-point games, and 300-point games you basically play like with one of these, and then a cruiser is what I would honestly do. 102 points, and then you'd get a cruiser for like 160 something. So that would be 270-ish points, or yeah, close to 270 points depending on what variant of the cruiser you're taking. So you'd end up with enough for nothing else really, but it would give you 2 powerful ships and no extra carrier capacity or anything like that, which is a little bit of a bummer. But let's go ahead and do one more here. We're not going to upgrade. Actually, we can upgrade the one thing here. Let's go ahead and upgrade the marker drones here. I feel like that's going to be a little bit good for this particular composition that we're going for. The marker drones are your accuracy boost, so the only thing is that we're not getting our upgrade, and those upgrades are so key. It's just that it's expensive to refund all of them, I find. I did see actually someone with like all aircasts upgraded light cruisers, so there's some people who've been really playing this game hard. We're up against a guy whose general name is Yuki. That's hilarious. Alright, he is a little bit ahead of us, but not too much. We can't actually afford another Castellan here, and unfortunately this time we could not take 2 messengers, but that's perfectly okay. Alright, let's see what other Yuki has in store for us here. So yeah, when they say that the wardens are free, don't be fooled by that. They're not actually free. It's not really worth taking that until I think you get the Nicassars, because I think the Nicassars are actually worth a little bit more than their 47 price tag, and if you think about what the cost of 2 of them is, 97, that sort of drops the cost of the ship itself down to like less than 100, so it's quite a decent sort of upgrade. Alright, I think we're in fairly open ground here, so we can go ahead and play it like this, I think. Alright, we don't have our lead ship this time, but alright, my opponent has 4 ships. I can almost guarantee that one of them is a light cruiser, and that 3 of them are like I think it's Castellan and then 2 wardens, unless he's got the Nicassar upgrade, in which case we're in trouble, because those things are like super deadly, man. They're like as good as my light cruiser, which is kind of stupid. Alright, my opponent actually does have a gas cloud that he seems to be heading towards, with probably any torpedo carriers are heading over there, is my guess.
Gravitic drive engaged.
So we'll clean up this fight here and deal with these 2, and then we'll stealth, and then we'll deal with the torpedo carriers, if that's his strategy, which I think it probably is. Could also go with like lock on potentially to try and fight that faster, but I still like having brace for impacts available. He might also have a carrier in there instead of 2 torpedo ships. Might actually be a Castellan and a carrier.
We serve the Kovatra.
Alright, good thing I looked just then.
Honor the teachings of Yola. Aircast ready for orders. As the ethereals wish.
Alright. One of the things is, like, despite the fact that these guys for cruiser tier don't have very many torpedoes, like, that homing really does help, but the damage per second out of them is actually quite bad. You sort of have to keep that in mind when you're playing this.
For Onva, it will be so.
Alright.
Aircast ready for orders. Honor the teachings of Yola. Aircast ready for orders.
There we go.
The Tauva shall prosper.
Yeah, he's definitely trying to sort of spring that ordnance coming out of the cloud thing. But it doesn't really matter, because our ordnance will still be hitting things, and we can clear out 2 wardens really quickly. It's just if they're Cassars, those things are so durable that it's actually really hard to kill them with our ships.
As the
Huh,
ethereals
it's
wish.
another mine right in our line of path.
How may I serve the Tauba?
Fantastic. I hate these things.
The Tauva shall prosper.
Alright, there we go.
serve the Kovatra.
That should be far enough around there.
Gravitic drive engaged.
How may I serve the Tauva?
I'm going to actually turn off automatic boarding.
At your orders, Koro. To spread the greater good.
Drones have identified an enemy
Alright,
tower.
what are these? Those are wardens, okay. Oh shit.
Core L ready.
Great.
Gravity drive engaged.
I have no idea what that sound indicates, honestly.
Aircast ready for orders. Honor the teachings of Viola.
There we go.
We serve the Kovadra. For Anvar, it will be so.
Aircast ready for orders.
How may I serve the Tauba? The ethereals guide us.
Yeah, I don't know which of my ships those torpedoes are heading for, but I'm hoping to dodge them.
Ethereals wish.
We serve the Kovatra.
Alright.
Core L ready.
Now, what's going to be good for us here is just actually letting our ships regain their sort of special maneuvers and coming back into the fight, into this gas cloud, after we get those back. So it'll be like 105 seconds or whatever, but honestly, I'm just going to run into the cloud and not worry about it, because that would be super boring waiting for like literally 2 minutes. Although, you know, who knows, by the time we get there, we might have that back. I mean, how much longer have we got for these ones? Like 90 seconds. I mean, our ships are so slow that by the time we get to this cloud, we'll probably have spent that much time anyway, so we'll turn this back on, I think.
How may I serve the Tauba?
I don't know what this little icon is. Oh, that's our general ship. Okay. The one that we torpedoed ourselves. Fantastic. Good times.
At your orders, Koro.
So this is the problem with using that distraction and then torpedo strategy. If you can take out the distractions that are scouting fast enough, you can actually just wipe out the enemy fleet before they can really respond. What I would like is like a boost sensor special order. That would be, I think, what this game needs. Like boost it out to 2000 range for a short period of time, like 40 seconds or something like that. Increase range of the guns while you're doing it. Increase accuracy maybe. Well, no, it's lock on target is accuracy, I think, but just sort of that kind of boost to things.
At your orders, Koro.
Alright.
Drones have identified an enemy target.
So yeah, his ship is going to get absolutely plastered for a second here, but my ship is going to get hit by those torpedoes. Fantastic. Oh no. Okay.
How may I serve the Tauva?
Alright, yeah, this ship not exactly in a good spot there.
At your orders, Koro.
Alright, we got that repaired.
Honor the
Repairing,
teachings of
rather.
Viola.
How may I serve the Tauba?
The ethereals guide us.
Generators destroyed on those guys. That's really good.
Core L ready.
Also delays his retreat, so that's extra really good.
Shasla.
Oh, that's the wrong ship to board there.
We serve
There
the
we go.
Kovadra.
And my opponent played this one sort of wrong there, I think. Like, it's kind of right in theory, but he should have been able to move his ships to support his wardens at the earlier on. This is what I was saying, like, stealth manipulation is really the key to victory in this this game. Which, I don't like. I know how to do it. I use it to win games. I just don't really like it. Alright. So, yeah, we'll hopefully be level 2 now, so I can sort of show you my thoughts on the upgrade path for Tau and how to sort of level them up a little bit. For now, we're still keeping with these unupgraded Siaslaz, or whatever, I don't remember what they're called. But yeah, we're level 2 now. Let's go ahead and continue. Right now, I kind of wonder, like, really what they probably are going to do to readjust things a little bit, to make it a little bit less focused on just line of sight manipulation, or if that's what they want it to be. It almost feels more like a submarine game, like submarines hunting each other in the depths of the dark, trying to keep radio silence, as opposed to a proper, like, ship-to-ship game, which is never quite as much about that. Yeah, there's, like, ships slipping in and out of fog and stuff like that in naval battles, but that wasn't really common if you had equal ships, which theoretically this game kind of is. Alright, let's go ahead and unlock a cruiser slot here. Like I said, the Tulku feels to me like it's just a better ship. There's only one difference between them. That's the Prow Twin Heavy Railgun compared to the Prow Heavy Railgun, and 1 point difference. So, I mean, this just is a better weapon in terms of damage per second, critical chances. So we're going to go ahead and take that. Yep. Alright, so this thing costs 167, so in a 300-point game we can take a Sessia and this, and that'll be a total of 269 points. And that'll leave us just not enough for anything else, but it is still a pretty decent combination of ships there, and that wouldn't be possible if we were using the more expensive Wardens, or the more expensive ships. But eventually we'll be able to start getting into the much higher point games, at which point I think the other variants of the emissaries are going to be a little bit stronger. Now, the Tulku is going to be used exactly as is, so it is very, very sensible to start getting upgrades at this point in time. Recon beacons, I think, are still quite powerful, especially because this is an ordnance carrier that has a lot of guns. The way that you would want to use it is just get in close to an enemy, pound his shields off, or rather, if it's a kiting type enemy like Eldar or something like that, you get in close enough to use your guns and stuff like that, deal as much damage as is possible, and then stick one of these recon beacons on it if they try to get away. So we're definitely going to have one of those. I feel like having the microgravitic jump helps us both get away and get closer. This is quite nice, the gravity wave projector, but it's only good for keeping the enemy away from you, so it's only really good for one thing. The nice thing about the gravity wave projector, though, is you can use one gravity wave projector to protect an entire fleet from close range ships, but right now close range ships don't really feel like they're the issue in this game. It feels like it's very hard to close with an enemy, and once you do, a lot of those sort of close range ships feel very, very underwhelming. I feel like Space Marines, for example, would get immediately crushed by these guys because they've got very, very poor anti-ordnance. They just get crushed by the Tau fighters and the Manta bombers, which would deal like half of the health off of a ship from the Space Marines. So them getting close isn't really going to be an issue because they'll be dead by the time they get there. Orcs, similar sort of situation there. They're so slow, and their weapons got stripped down so badly by nerfs that they wouldn't be able to do much. It's the Eldar that I would be worried about. It's Chaos that I'd be worried about, especially Chaos with lances. So for that sort of thing, I think the micro warp jump is just a little bit better. It lets you get in close there so you can try and tag them with the recon beacon. Alternatively, you can go the enhanced induction cells, but enhanced induction cells are better for faster ships. The other thing you could try to do is just make these guys tanky and have the supercharged void shield, something like that, or you can make this more just the center of a larger navy and just give it the repair drones, but I feel like the battleship is where you would go with that sort of thing. Although if you had your entire fleet with the repair drones, you could keep your ships just sort of wanking off each other with the repair drones pretty much in perpetuity. It would be pretty strong in that sense. What we're going to do in this particular setup, though, is go with the micro warp jump. So, yeah, this is the Tau. It's still in beta. They're still subject to change. I'm really hoping that they change up the cruisers to differentiate them a little bit more. And, yeah, we'll see how things go from here. But in any event, I think the overall fleet step in a good direction. This is how I think an Ordnance faction should be designed and developed in this game, just not so avoidant. Force them to engage the enemy because they're too slow to escape them, sort of thing. I think that's a little bit better than the inevitable constant running that Chaos players do, that Eldar player do nowadays, with just carriers. I don't think that particular style of gameplay is that engaging or interesting, and it does eliminate a lot of stuff from the meta with no counterplay. So hopefully this will be a turn for the right direction. I do think as well that the Tau are pretty good against that kiting style, other than the Lance Carrier kiting. but we'll see how things go. In any event, I hope you found this video enjoyable, and of course, as always, I hope to see you all next time.